You get a lot of people that, look at this from an outside perspective, right? And they assume that by virtue of you getting better, that none of that negative stuff matters, right? But if this was just an isolated incident, a one time thing, then okay, yeah, you could sort of just, you recognize that that is something that happened, and now you're cognitive of, wow, that was weird, and you just move on with your life, right? But if you are somebody who is chronically sick, and this is and you getting really really ill is a recurring thing, what it does is it creates a fear inside you subconsciously, whether you believe it or not. PTSD starts to manifest, right? And then everything that you start to get nervous, and anything and everything that happens to you, you associate with this really terrible thing. For me personally, because of the nature of this illness and how I feel on a regular basis, it's difficult for me to discern where the illness is coming from, and I'm always concerned. I'm always scared that it's going to happen again. I'm going to get HLH again, and I'm going to get really sick. I'm going to get another sepsis infection, this or that or the other, or the fear it's always there. The concern is always there. It's always in either the forefront of my mind or the back of my mind. It's always there. So, by virtue of something terrible happening and then you get better, and then you should just never think about it again. No, all that stuff does matter, because it chips away. It chips away at your mental health, right? All of it just is a blow to your mental health. So it does matter. I've never understood this idea of people just, something happens to them, something like an illness, like they get a chronic illness or they get a kidney transplant, and they just move on and they just never talk about it again, like it's a thing that never happened. Like, I never understood that. Of like, well, I'm just going to pretend like this never happened. But it did happen. And it did affect you mentally. And that did affect your mental health. So what do? Right? I don't want to just present problems with no solution. So what do? Right? Seek professional help. There are plenty of avenues to go down that are inexpensive, sometimes free. I don't subscribe to this, but going to a group and talking about it with others that have shared similar experiences to you, talking about it with somebody that has expressed that they truly want to help you. Don't just some random person or your technician or your nurse or your social worker at your dialysis center, because 9 times out of 10, they don't care. um, try to work it out, but understand that it's an ongoing thing, right? There was a time where, you had a problem and you get over it, you close the door on it, and then that's it, right? But now, as time starts to go on, we're starting to understand that, there's no timetable on grief, there's no timetable on trauma, right? It's not a thing of just, well, you go to therapy for 3 weeks and I'm cured. It doesn't necessarily always work that way. Not to say that with some people it doesn't, because you'll have some people that disagree with me and be like, my mind's like a steel trap. This terrible thing happened. I went to therapy for about 2 weeks and I just got over it. Okay, that's cool if that's what you want to do. If that's the perception that you want to put out there. But, it's a, man, and I hate to use this phrase, but it's a process, right? And sometimes things will happen that will trigger an emotional response. Like if I feel a certain type of way, I get concerned about, like, is this going to happen again? When I got those sepsis infections from using the home hemodialysis machine, right? It's not something that happens regularly, but it has happened twice. And as a result of that, I have now become a bit more trepidatious about using a certain method of dialysis. I still do it because, it's the more convenient way of doing the dialysis, but there is some trepidation there. And I'm always constantly cognitive of like, okay, now I understand that this is a thing that can happen. This is a possibility. So now I have to be ready. And now I know, and I have to be ready for if this occurs again. Just because you get over something doesn't mean that you get over it. Just because you get over something, just because you heal and you get better, doesn't mean that trauma, that doesn't mean that illness didn't create a trauma in you that can affect you in the future. I believe that it's important to be cognitive of how you feel and not let outside forces or, societal opinion sway how you feel about something. Granted, if it's not like destructive or negative. I believe that it's important to be self aware